Thanks everybody for joining us. We just were in an executive session. No action was taken. We were there to discuss collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law. First order of business is to appoint me as Clerk Pro Tem because our clerk, Catherine Platt, is managing our budget vote. Budget count, I should say, and Ann Dinio, who's our usual next up, is also managing the budget count. So I am the next default member, of which I don't entirely feel qualified. So we'll see how that goes. So I would like to, I guess I make a motion to appoint myself as Clerk Pro Tem. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, guys, for the vote of confidence. We already said our pledge to the flag in our executive session, so I'm going to move on to roll call. President Daly is here. Vice President Headland?
Here.
Trustee Parr?
Here.
Trustee McNall?
Here.
And Trustee Clements?
Here.
Okay. Tonight is our annual meeting. So right now our count is underway and we will be keeping tabs on it and hopefully reporting out some results throughout the evening. Our next Haldane Board of Education meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, July 1st, which will be our reorg meeting, which we'll see later in the meeting. We have to actually make that an official meeting. But it'll be Wednesday, July 1st at 7 o'clock, right here on Zoom. Okay, that's it for now. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Benante.
Thank you, Jen, and good evening, everyone, and good evening to our administrators who are also joining us this evening for our workshop. As Jen mentioned, the tally is being completed now down in our gymnasium in the main building, and as you are likely aware, for any of our community members, they can tune in and watch the tally. There is a link posted on our website, and you can see the room where the tallies are being made, and you can also view the formatted spreadsheet that Ann has going on, where the tally is actually occurring, or where you can see the results of that tally. So we've done our best here, and I just want to thank again Catherine and Megan and Ann again, who have put together a really good process to tally these votes this evening. And I was just down there for a little bit before joining you, and I can say the process is going really well. So Catherine and Ann and Megan gave this a lot of thought. It took a lot of coordination to, one, maintain the security of the vote and the confidential nature of the vote, but also the accuracy of the vote, and it's going off really well. Their planning really shows. So I'm encouraged to think in short time we'll have the results of the budget. And again, given our size, but also the model for efficiency we've implemented down there, we're going to have our results tonight, and that's a great thing. Many districts, especially those larger than ours, their tally is going to go into tomorrow at least. So they won't have their budget results this evening. Many districts are just taking this evening to get themselves organized, and then they'll begin their tallying tomorrow. So I'm glad that we'll be able to stick with what we've always done here in having a final budget vote this evening. So just for folks who are watching, we'll likely have to take a break at some point just to let the tally be completed. And then we'll come back, and the election inspector, Judy, will provide us with the results. So now with that, we had our last day with students on Friday. We had our last day with faculty on Monday. A very unique end to the school year, largely virtual for many of us. I know many of our board members had the opportunity to attend our 5th grade moving up and our 8th grade moving up ceremonies. I'd like to thank Ms. Jammin and Dr. Silky, respectively, for those ceremonies. As unique as it is to have a virtual moving up ceremony, I felt that each really honored the traditions that we have in place and have come to appreciate here at Haldane, and held the appropriate space for each student and their family who may be watching from home. And I hope that they did. And thank you, Marianne and Christine, for doing that. Earlier in the week, our seniors, and I know Julia is going to speak to this a little bit, but had the opportunity to do their car parade to scoop the loop down Main Street. It was a wonderful recognition, beginning of a recognition for our seniors and our senior class. Many of our community members came out along Main Street, even though we went through the kids went through the North Highlands as well to cheer them on and to celebrate them and their accomplishments this school year. And it was great to be a part of. And I just wanted to again thank Julia as well as the senior class advisors for their efforts in putting that together for our kids. It was a nice kind of break, if you will, from all of the stress that has kind of consumed the closure of this school year for in many ways. And I think as things start to open up in our communities, and that was a great way for the beginning of Cold Spring opening up and Phillipstown opening up that day. And I was really happy to be a part of it. And Julia, I know you'll speak a little more to it in your remarks. So I'll leave that for you. And Julia, I know you want to share some things as well about graduation. So again, I'll defer to you on that. Assuming tonight's budget vote goes well, we will then shift our complete attention to the school reopening planning for the upcoming school year. So we're anxious to get beyond tonight. Sorry, I just have a lot of screens up in my office right now, so that keeps falling. We have a lot of our focus is, on the school budget vote, obviously for good reason, but beyond that, we have a lot to plan for the upcoming school year. So our focus we hope to pivot after tonight and give our full attention to the planning for the upcoming school year, and we'll do so. And with that, Jen, I'll conclude my remarks, and I know we have a special presentation this evening, so I want to leave time for that. And we'll see how the evening goes.
Okay, great, thanks. We're going to move into our special recognitions. Usually the last meeting in June is an opportunity for us to have all of our retirees here, and we get to acknowledge them in person. We're going to save that. Hopefully, we'll be doing something perhaps more in person in the fall for them. For tonight, we'll just be saying thank you and wishing well wishes to our retirees. I'm going to just go through and read their names and titles for us before we, and then if anyone has anything to say about them, you can do it then. So our retirees this year include Linda Dearborn, confidential secretary to the superintendent. She actually retired back in October, but she is on our list of people we will miss. Doreen Ferris, teacher aide. Elizabeth Gorecki, cafeteria staff. Doris Horgan, middle school office aide. Tom Lacazio, middle school, high school art teacher, although I believe we will be seeing him on the cross-country track in the fall. Carolyn McLaughlin, high school special education teacher. Eric Richter, high school English teacher, who had a very nice write-up in the Highlands Current, interviewed him this week. And Cheryl Wansdale, our head cleaner. So we thank you for your service. We are sorry you're not here in person having cupcakes with us, but we will look forward to celebrating you hopefully in person at another time. And we'd also like to thank Andrew Nachamkin, who is our student advisor from 2019 to 2020. He was also our student advisor the year previous. We didn't get to see him as much this year due to the circumstances, but he's been an incredible asset. I'm so glad we have a student advisor. I'm so glad we implemented that a couple of years ago. And Andrew, I believe he's like student of the year or something for Haldane. So, I mean, his accolades go far beyond student advisor to the Board of Education, but we've really appreciated having him here with us. So a thank you to him. And there's nothing more to say about our special recognitions. We're good. I'll move into information reports. So I don't think Andrew's with us tonight. Let me just make sure he's not on with us, right? Okay.
No Andrew tonight.
Okay, good. So we'll move into Ms. Jammon's report.
All right, thank you, everybody. My report tonight, I wanted to highlight that while we've been virtual and not in person, we've been able to hold a number of our end of year events, not all of them, but many. So I wanted to highlight that since our last meeting, we did have a kindergarten orientation virtually with parents via Zoom. Thank you to Dan McGroarty and Corey Reisterer. They were able to coordinate with our community artists, and our fifth graders participated in Arts Alive, which is a tradition at Haldane that we weren't sure we would be able to do. So thank you to community members, Mark Robaum, Kimberly Sevilla, Drina Fagan, Margaret Hundley Parker, Dar Williams, the board's own Sean McNall, Tanya Dirks, and Katie Bessinger, who all participated as community artists, leading workshops with our students. Ms. Branco is hosting the elementary art show. Our fifth graders, the student council and Ms. Spooner coordinated the elementary talent show, which was shared to families on Friday with the video of the end of year events, and then our fifth grade moving up. So none of that would have been possible without our community members and our teachers all working together to really do our best to host things that are important to our students, even though we are virtually participating. So just wanted to acknowledge those events.
Great, thank you. And I'll share that I was at a lot of those elementary events, and I am so impressed with the elementary school for keeping so many of those things alive for the kids. And you guys did a great job, and graduation was beautiful. And thank you for your work. Okay, Dr. Seelke.
Good evening, everyone. In the spirit of ending the year in a fashion that helped with engagement, I hope that you guys can hear me. Our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teachers worked to infuse guest speakers and many of the culminating projects that they would normally have for their classes into classes. So just some examples are, in the 6th grade, Mr. Sniffen worked tirelessly to digitize his civilization project. And Mr. Wick brought in a pair of naturalists from the PNW BOCES Center for Environmental Education, and treated the 6th grade class to that guest speaker experience. In the 7th grade, Danielle PC worked with Kathy Curto to still have her work with the students for the This I Believe writings, and to still publish them. She published them digitally this year. Usually they get published in a book, and they were really, the depth of the writing was beyond 7th grade, beyond 7th graders. Our children have really expressed themselves in writing in the This I Believe this year. And our 8th grade held true with their collaborative projects for their culminating work. So I am happy that our teachers worked so tirelessly to keep our students engaged remotely and through such difficult times. Dr. Benante already talked about the 8th grade moving up ceremony. So I just want to share something else that didn't make it into the board report because it was decided right after that. And I want to let you know that our student council each year, as a tradition, they give the 8th grade class gives a class gift. And in meeting virtually with the student council over several meetings, the students really wanted to do something for their teachers. And what they ended up deciding to do is to give a generous gift in honor of their teachers to the Phillipstown Food Pantry. They also were partnering with the Phillipstown Mask Makers Guild and wanted to give a gift to the Phillipstown Mask Makers Guild. And the Phillipstown Mask Makers Guild has generously donated enough masks for all of the middle school students in Haldane colors. And then on top of that, asked the student council to pay forward the gift to another charity. So the student council is working on determining another local charity that will receive the donation in honor of now not only the student council and the Haldane middle school faculty, but also the Phillipstown Mask Makers Guild. So really a wonderful flow of gifts.
Very nice. Thank you. Ms. Sniffen.
Not actually sure where to start. I feel like there's So much going on. Dr. Benante mentioned the Scoop the Loop. And again, just thank you to Marilyn and Kristen, our class advisors who really did the organization for that. I cannot take credit at all for any of that. They organized the North Highlands Fire Department, the Cold Spring Fire Department, the Sheriff's Department, the Cold Spring Police, the Ambulance Corps. That was really on them. Graduation, I think as many people know, we have a new governor's has lifted the ability to have 150 people at graduation. In my meetings with students and with the class parents, we have decided to hold 2 ceremonies. The students will be able to attend both ceremonies, which was something that meant a lot to them. And each student will be able to bring 2 guests. I have to thank Tim Walsh for his work in meeting with me countless times to make sure the layout is okay. The governor came out with some guidelines again today that we need to be sure that we are following. So Tim and I have another meeting scheduled just to be sure we're all set to get this to happen. As it relates to graduation, there's a few people I also need to thank. I need to thank the PTA for some of their financial support, the Haldane School Foundation, who has been incredibly supportive, Caitlin Chadwick, who took pictures of all of our students and their families on campus, Damian McDonald and Jim Mikalakis, who are helping with the video production. We are still going to create a video production of graduation, knowing that we cannot have as many people attend as we would like. Martha Mikalakis and her work and making sure we have the Blue Notes ready to go in either case where they can sing with masks on or where we have a recording of them to make sure it's our current seniors that are singing. So we just want to mention that. A couple other things along the same lines that Christine and Marianne have mentioned. We had our 8th grade high school orientation last week. I had quite a few students attend. Thank you to Ryan McConville to help monitor that with me. The senior internships went off incredibly this year, both virtually and with the guest speaker series. In talking with Melissa Seidman, we're hoping to infuse a guest speaker series next year, even if the students are back in their regular senior internship projects. So happy about that. Just 2 students to mention. Patrick Reinhardt, who is a junior, received the Rensselaer Medal from RPI, which includes a $30,000 scholarship per year if he chooses to go to RPI. So congratulations to Patrick. We already mentioned Andrew, and I have to mention Annika Chan. If you have a chance, we will be posting on the school website tomorrow, the High School Insight Literary Magazine. The work that the students have done in light of what's going on around our country and making sure that there are pieces of poetry and creative writing and art depicting what is happening and what's going on around us is tremendous. I have to thank Dr. Richter for making sure those pieces got in to the magazine. And the students this year decided to dedicate it to all essential workers, nurses, doctors. But there was a special thanks to the Haldane janitorial staff for their work in ensuring that they kept the building clean as long as they could, going in behind all of us and behind all of them to ensure that the building's clean. So this year's dedication to the literary magazine is to the Haldane janitorial staff. I'm super proud of our students for recognizing that. So I've said, oh, and Annika's artwork is going to be down in Washington, D.C., one of her pieces for an entire school year through Sean Patrick Maloney's office. So congratulations to Annika on that as well. Thank you. That was a lot.
All good stuff. Thank you, Julia. Tara Rounds.
Good evening. Thank you. So as you mentioned before, with Mrs. McLaughlin's retirement, we have a high school special education position opening, and we've been conducting our interviews remotely, and virtually, which has been interesting. So just to thank that interview committee for working on this important task along with Julianne Sniffen and I'd like to thank Andrea McHugh, Gabriel Horn, and Christina Ziadzio, who's our parent member, and Zaire Mickle, who is our student member. What I would also like to share tonight is you know, over the past several months, we've discussed the challenges and all that we have endured as parents, as students, as faculty. You know, we've talked about, you know, many challenges that we've had, and along with that, we've also gotten some really good feedback. And I just wanted to end the year on a positive note by sharing one really nice email that I got from a parent recently. And with her permission, I would like to read an excerpt from the email. And this is the parent of a middle school student with an IEP. And what she said was, at the beginning of this virtual learning stuff, my child really struggled. He was unmotivated and overly anxious about everything. He relied heavily on me to help keep him focused and organized. We would typically spend 5 to 6 hours a day on assignments before throwing in the towel, but an amazing change has happened over the last 6 weeks. He has become a much more confident and independent learner. He does most of his work alone, I'm still hovering nearby, and is done in 3 to 4 hours at most. He is excited to complete work early and loves seeing the grades he's getting. He is learning how capable he really is. Back in March, he was dead set against moving up to the high school. Now he's excited by the idea. So as difficult as these past months have been, here is something positive that came from it all. So I just wanted to highlight, you know, how some of our students have really persevered and overcome so much in these past few months.
Thank you, Tara. So nice. Mr. Solom.
So good evening, everyone. I just wanted to inform our community that the Haldane Athletic Department has been granted the Award of Excellence by the New York State Public High School Athletic Association and the National Federation of High Schools for exemplary display of sportsmanship, ethics, and integrity. I just wanted to thank our students, our coaches, our administration, and our community members for helping earn that distinction. It's a new award, and it's great that we earned it in its first year. I also wanted to just remind everyone that over the summer, I'll be sending out communication in regards to fall sports. Right now, varsity and JV sports are scheduled to start August 24th. If there's a change, I will send an update. And I just also wanted to mention briefly that the athletic department has created an end of the year video highlighting all of our sports with messages from most of our coaching staff. That video will go out later this week to our families and will be posted on the athletic page of our website. So I just wanted to thank our athletic trainer, Meg Crow, for helping with some of the editing, and all of our coaches for their kind words and help with the video. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank all of our coaches and teachers on a great school year. I know it's been difficult and challenging, but everyone's been flexible and has done a great job. So thank you. I appreciate all your hard work, and have a great summer.
Thank you, Mr. Solom. Mr. Walsh.
Yes, hi, good evening, everyone. Most significantly, the operations and maintenance staff is back on campus. We started last week in a full capacity. It was great to see everyone in person, which hasn't happened in quite some time. We started last week assisting with the teachers and faculty coming back to move out their classrooms and clean out their classes, disinfecting behind. And this week we're assisting with the students coming back to pick up their personal effects and make sure we can assist those kids getting their things out in an efficient manner. And then we're getting ready to start our summer cleaning program. On Monday the 22nd, once we have all the personal effects out, we'll start our summer cleaning program with our janitorial staff, and we'll work that throughout the summer. With that, the cleaning and also some maintenance projects that we have scheduled. In terms of capital, we're getting ready to kick that off as well. Had a pre-construction meeting with DeRosa Sports. They're ready to commence on June 29th, just after graduation. So they'll be here on site a few days after, getting ready to rip up some parking lots. And they're ready to go. Also, the floor tile or the cafeteria floor replacement, which was approved at the last meeting. That floor tile we're still waiting on a schedule, but it's in stock, and the contractor is prepared to start whenever we agree on a schedule. And finally, the cafeteria equipment that has been ordered. It is in the manufacturer's or the supplier's warehouse, so we're just waiting to schedule that as well with them. But pretty soon here, we'll be kicking all that off and getting some activity on campus again. But that's all. Thank you and have a great evening.
Thanks so much. I love it. There's so much positivity in our reports tonight. moving forward. Okay, we have a special presentation from Ms. Jamin. Dr. Benante, would you like to give an introduction for Ms.
Yep.
Jamin?
Thank you, Jen. So last school year, the elementary school had decided, the primary school teachers, or teachers of primary age students, excuse me, recognized that there was likely a gap or inconsistencies in our approaches to teaching phonics to our students in grades kindergarten through second grade. So through the beginning of this school year and into really through this school year, they've been piloting a particular curricular resource for the teaching of phonics. And Christine is going to provide an overview of how that pilot has gone, along with a recommendation this evening. So Christine, I'll turn it over to you. And Christine, I did allow you to share your screen. I wasn't sure if you wanted me to share the presentation or if you were going to pull it up yourselves, but you should, if you need me to do it, that's fine. We didn't talk about this, I'm sorry. If you have it ready to go, you should be able to share your screen at this point.
Great, I will do that. All right.
There you go.
All right, so the purpose of this presentation is just to update you on where we are at with the phonics pilot, as Dr. Benante said. So just to center our discussion, the idea behind having a separate phonics program is that the research shows us that phonics needs to be taught to primary students in an explicit fashion that really makes them aware of the phonemic sounds and their mapping to letters. But that it works best when that explicit phonics instruction is also tied to the rest of their learning through reading and writing in a coordinated way. So at Haldane, we have used a balanced and responsive literacy approach, which includes a reader's workshop, a writer's workshop, and then at the primary level, that includes phonics as their part of word study. And then as the students move through elementary school, word study turns into a study of vocabulary and spelling and connects to other curriculum, science and social studies, so that students are learning words in context. So those three components, the reading, the writing, and the word study all come together to be our balanced literacy approach. And within each of those categories, there are different strategies that teachers would use with their students to ensure that they are making progress in the area of English language arts. Now, the research behind phonics instruction is, if you look at the What Works Clearinghouse, a lot of the research is on interventions and on practices as opposed to specific programs. Teachers College Units of Study in Phonics is brand new. It was just released in April or May of last year, and the second grade curriculum actually came out over the summer. So there isn't specific data on this program, but there's also not specific data on the program we were using prior, which is Foundations. So previously we used a readers and writers workshop accompanied by Foundations. And what the teachers in 3 of our classrooms piloted was using the readers and writers workshop along with the TC Phonics program. So all classes received explicit phonics instruction. It was just a matter of which materials were used to do that phonics instruction. So there was 1 kindergarten class, 1 first grade class, and 1 second grade class using TC, while the other 2 used Foundations. When we switched to distance learning in kindergarten and first grade, the phonics instruction was delivered by the 2 pilot teachers. So all kindergarten and first grade students were exposed to and using the phonics instruction through the TC units of study during that time. In May, we met together as an instructional team at the elementary level and reviewed the pilot, the data and the feedback from the teachers, And this is some of the feedback that we got from the teachers regarding foundations and TC. And I'd like to note that all of the teachers that piloted the TC program had previously used foundations. So they were familiar with both programs when they were reporting back. Both are familiar. TC is familiar in that the format mimics the reading and writing workshop that we currently use, and foundations we've been using. Both explicitly teach the skills around phonics. The real difference, and the reason that the pilot teachers felt very strongly about moving forward, and we'll talk about the recommendations momentarily, is the way that TC introduces words and concepts at the same pace that the reading and writing standards for K1 and 2 progress through skills. So incorporated into the sight words in first grade, for example, when the standards for first grade writing are talking about students being able to talk about their own narratives, the words that are included as sight words and that are taught are words that would be commonly used by a first grader who was writing a narrative. So they felt like, in addition to the phonics skills, they were also tied to the reading and writing standards. It does cover many of the important concepts that we would be looking for in a phonics program: the introduction of letters, the formation of letters, which would incorporate some handwriting, phonemic awareness, students taught to look at words like professors. This is a unique approach, well, not unique approach, but it's a highlighted approach within the TC units of study, in that they really try to encourage students to think of themselves as professors, as readers, as learners, and that language is used within the lessons to show the importance of what they are learning. It uses a multisensory approach, which the research really backs up, where students are seeing words, writing letters, saying them, listening to them. So using a multisensory approach to that learning of phonics. And there's a deliberate pace with small group work. So all students participate in a mini lesson at the start of the phonics instruction. So they're all learning the new sounds, but there's additional small group work built into the program so that students that have a solid understanding of a particular sound can move on in one way. And then students who may be struggling, there's additional lessons that can be used to help them remediate a skill that's difficult for them. And as I mentioned, it's aligned with those reading and writing standards. This is just a slide to give you just a visual of what comes with the kits. You're getting word walls for students, you're getting sight words for them, ways for them to map their words with tall letters and short letters, handwriting, outlines for students, and it all comes with the program in reusable format for year to year. And there are mascots, which are very cute. Other programs come with mascots too. Foundations has an owl, but this is Mabel, Rashid, and right this moment, I cannot remember the dragon's name, but they learn phonics along with the students and encourage the students to write and read to them and practice their skills, which is engaging for our kids. With the TC units of study, we also get access to online resources, and this is different than the other programs. These resources are live and get updated as new information comes in. So when you have a kit, you're able to sign in online and click on each of these links and get more information and more support within the units of study. And one of the things that recently came up in those online resources is that with the shift to distance learning across the world, one of the online resources that's in there is a way to adjust the curriculum to support students that may have gaps in the fact that the spring units of study were taught virtually under crisis conditions. So there are suggestions and ways in which the spring units can be brought into the fall units. It says August, that's because nationwide, many schools start in August, so that would be our September. And as I said, when I attended the Phonics Institute in March, there were educators from all over the world attending it from various different time zones. So that August is related to that. So our implementation proposal, and this was after a presentation to our instructional council and a survey that went out to the entire instructional council as well as all K-2 teachers, and really going through their feedback and their ideas regarding what they had heard and what they would need to move forward. Our implementation proposal is that we begin in September with all 3 grades with the units of study replacing foundations. The budget implication of that, we have 1 kit for each classroom teacher at each grade level right now, but we would need 2 more for each grade level. Plus, we have an ICT section at each grade level, so the co-teachers for the integrated co-teaching would need a half kit. So they don't need the additional student resources since they share students, but they do need the teacher materials so that they can plan and that it's a truly co-taught class. If we don't provide it to the integrated co-teaching teacher, then they're sharing materials and not actually both able to deliver instruction together, which does not fit our model for co-teaching. So all teachers would have a kit, but each classroom would only need 1 set of resources. In that survey to K-2 teachers, we asked them what they would most need to feel prepared. And their responses, I thought, were well thought out. The most important thing that they highlighted was time this summer with their materials to familiarize, work together, and plan for September, especially given the adjusted implementation. Professional learning during the year where they would be able to work together and with professional developers, whether that is contracted outside or a curriculum director, but time during the year for professional learning around the kits. And then internal support from the pilot teachers. Yes, this year, what did they learn from the pilot, and sharing that information, as well as myself and 4 teachers attended a 3-day Phonics Institute that had a number of workshops on best practices and ways to support students and implement the program. So providing time through ASSD and professional development hours to share what we learned. And that is the presentation.
Thank you,
Great.
Christine. Are there any questions from the board for
Yeah,
Ms. Chairman?
I have 2.
Yeah.
One is, thank you very much. I'll bound myself to 2. Thank you very much for this. I appreciate the in-depth, and certainly I'm in no way able to make a judgment on the appropriate curriculum for the school, but I appreciate going through it. But what I would like to know is what triggered this process in the first place? What did you realize with the current curriculum that you thought needed to be addressed through looking for something else?
Sure. So I wasn't here when the decision was made, but I can speak to the conversations that were had since then. So this may not be 100% the reasoning, but what I've gathered is twofold. One, prior to this, as the teachers worked to adopt the reading and writing units of study, Teachers College didn't have units of study in phonics. The developers of that curriculum were very explicit that instruction was necessary, important, but was separate from reading and writing, the reading and writing at that time. So they encouraged districts to engage with other curriculum to support phonics, and Haldane was using foundations. TC said without another curriculum, the teachers were seeing that and seeing what did it that was different. And it offers the same things, and that, you know, the explicit instruction is still using the similar research-based strategies and still getting a development of, but that time to the reading rights where kids get to practice that pace that is connected to learning. Foundations is often used as an intervention for kids who are struggling with their phonics and because we have the kits, we're still be able to use it as tier 2 and 3 intervention. Benante says my audio is speaking of that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I think we were able to get most of that, Christine. It just was breaking up a little bit, and I know sometimes when we play with our video, maybe during the Q&A period, it may be best just to switch off. There you go. But we'll keep it open for questions.
And the other question was maybe for Phil or maybe for Christine. So, was this the decision to and the process by which you were looking at this new piece of curriculum? Was this integrated into sort of the new process for assessing curriculum across the entire school that you started to pilot or adopt, and how's that working?
Yeah, so interestingly, as one part of that, just going back to last year, as Christine mentioned, this was a discussion that started prior to her time, really among the faculty, part of whom were ready to go right into implementing the program. And so we wanted to slow that down a little bit. And we've talked about this and making sure that we're going through a review of program. A piloting process is a part of that, of just making sure that we're being slow and deliberate and examining not only the resource that may be considered, but also other resources and whether or not they align with what our particular goals are or what gap we've identified in our instruction. So this was a good first step towards kind of testing that process out a little bit. And I think just the process of piloting it, and as you know, through a function of that, it wasn't necessarily the intention to expand the pilot to the extent that it was. There was just an opportunity to do so, and the teachers wanted to use that distance learning environment as to utilize the resource a bit more. So that was an audible they called, and that's perfectly fine. But the short answer, John, or the long answer now is yes. It's a good first attempt of that. As Christine noted, we had a cross section of teachers at each grade level piloting it, which allowed them to, kind of hold on to it as an anchor resource, but also to build their capacity in utilizing it so that when their colleagues came along, if we made the decision to expand it, we already would have a staff member at each grade level who had a familiarity with the process, with the particular resource, to again serve as a bridge between those now who are coming on to adopt it, and that's I think an important part whenever we're examining integrating a resource into our core program. So this was a good first step, and a good area to test this out on through this school year.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Go ahead, Peggy.
I have a question. Did the teachers who were using the TC, the Units of Study program, did they perceive it in any way like being more effective, sort of like, hopefully, the groups are so small and there's differences by class, and so I'm not asking for like this like rigorous data analysis process, but did you get a sense that you had fewer students, that the program could lead to fewer students qualifying, needing tier 2 or tier 3 intervention?
So we did look at MAPS data from winter MAPS. We didn't administer MAPS virtually in the spring.
Right, of course not. Yeah.
We talked about it, but it just seemed like not the choice to make. But looking at the winter MAPS, kindergarten wouldn't have been helpful because their data is just different. But the results there, again, you mentioned that it's so small, but no negatives at all to the MAPS data. And what they were able to see anecdotally that they felt was really positive was the transfer of it to student writing. So noticing that when students were writing this year, as opposed to the conversations they've had with students during writing last year, students referencing a phonics rule more when trying to spell words, or during reading trying to decode words, that because of the common language between the program we happen to be using for reading and writing workshop, that they were seeing students make that connection between phonics and reading and writing more explicitly.
Right. I can see why that alignment would be important, right? So you have, you know, shared terminology and approaches and things like that. That's great. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions for Ms. Jamin? Great. Well, thank you for the report.
Thank you very much.
Jen, just a
And go
procedural
ahead.
thing.
Yes, please.
And I don't recall us having gone through too many discussions around pilot programs yet. I'd imagine there'll be more in the future. So how we would envision lining this up is that there's a presentation to the board, similar to what you had tonight. And then at the next Board of Ed meeting, if there's a recommendation from Christine to move towards implementing this as the core resource for that program area, we would treat this very much like a textbook recommendation, and that there should be a resolution on the next agenda where the board would be formally adopting this now as our approach to phonics instruction beginning with the next school year, assuming, and again, that could be a bit nuanced depending on what the recommendation specifically is. So, but that being said, for this one, we would put this on then our next business agenda for adoption by the board.
Yep, that makes sense.
And that way, if there's questions still in the meantime, we can flesh those out.
Yep. Yep. Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Jamin. Moving into communication from the public, if there's anybody listening that would like to communicate with us, you can do so via chat, and we will address your chats at the next communication from the public section of the meeting. So chat away with us. Committee minutes. The health and safety minutes from June 1st and the district-wide safety minutes from district-wide safety team minutes from June 8th are here to read and review. Going into consent agenda minutes. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Consent agenda financial. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All
Jen,
those in
just one note.
sorry. Yeah,
I just wanted to make sure I drew anybody who's watching their attention to the change order as part of phase 1 for the 2019 capital improvement project. That change order includes the now addition, because the bids came in under what our budget was, but the addition of blacktopping of the elementary playground area, which for those of you who've been on it know that it's long overdue for an upgrade. So we're grateful that we should be able to complete that work this summer, which would then also include on top of it new stenciling and painting for the various activities that our kids participate on the blacktop area.
great. Thank you for pointing that out. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Consent agenda personnel. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
So we have a couple of interesting things here. Dr. Benante, could you talk through a little bit, just about a little overview of the tenure recommendations, a little bit of that process, please?
Sure. So we have 2 tenure candidates who we're pleased to recommend to you this evening, Mr. David Doherty, who I believe is listening in, and also Ms. Barbara Jennings. And we're pleased to recommend present both David and Barbara to the Board of Education. These both have good experience at Haldane, even though they're being recommended for tenure here. Both have been longtime educators in our school system. Although because of either a break in service or a change in tenure area, are now being presented again as candidates for tenure for the upcoming school year. And the process is quite an extensive one, due in part to what we just do locally, but also in part to what now are part of requirements for tenure recommendation and performance review for teachers. So each of these teachers go through a series of evaluations each school year and have for the greater part of the last 3 to 4 school years. And then in addition to that, excuse me, in their tenure year, they also go through a review process with me, which includes the creation of a portfolio or various artifacts that they pulled together against the Danielson framework for teaching. They meet with me and talk through the artifacts that they have collected and how they feel that it speaks to each domain of the Danielson framework for teaching. We have a healthy discussion, I'll say, the nature of their work and what they envision their work being in the coming years. So David and Barbara have both gone through this process in its entirety, and me, on behalf of our entire administration, are pleased to recommend them to you as part of this recommendation. And normally we would have our candidates here, and again, I'm encouraged to know that David's listening in, but this is similar to our retirees, and we both try to tie these at the same time. Even though we are not able to formally recognize our tenure candidates in the way that we would normally would this school year, we should do so next school year. So I would envision having them back as part of a board meeting down the road, assuming you vote in the affirmative in the next few minutes.
Thank you. And I just also want to point out that Miss Nancy Norton is doing some substitute office work over the summer. That does not mean she is not staying on in the
Correct.
cafeteria. This is in addition to her cafeteria work to fill in some gaps over the summer.
I did read it that way at first. I
know. I thought maybe somebody would be concerned.
I had to go back and read it twice.
That would be breaking news if we were losing Nancy. So
that would be very sad news. Also, I just want to talk about the coaching positions that are on here. So I really like that we're moving forward with a positive outlook for our fall sports. So if anything needs to change to our fall sports and therefore need to change to our coaching positions, we will deal with that later on down the road.
Correct. I'm encouraged by some of what I've read recently in the hope that COVID-19 continues to have less of an influence on our community and will begin to return to activities that we've all come to appreciate, including athletics. In the event, though, that there is a local impact in the fall, we'll certainly, that will give us pause to evaluate how we're proceeding in moving forward with athletics and if we're able to at all.
Great. Any further discussion?
I have a quick question, and I'm sorry I didn't notice it beforehand, before the meeting. But the coaching requests lists AJ McConville as both a cross-country head coach and a cross-country assistant.
Chris, could you, I know you may not have it up in front of you, and
Sure.
I'm inclined to think that may be an error.
And I just thought that if it was maybe there would be a chance that we could catch it right now. And I do apologize for not noticing it before.
I don't.
I have it. It
Yep.
says cross-country head coach lists Tom Lacazio and AJ McConville, and then cross-country assistant Tony Caldiero and AJ McConville.
That must be a mistake. AJ McConville should not be there for cross-country. We have Tom Lacazio as the head coach and Tony Caldiero as the assistant. Alex McConville or AJ McConville is our indoor track coach and our spring track and field coach.
That's what
I've got him there for winter track head coach and spring track head coach.
And he's not assistant for cross country either, AJ?
No, he is not.
Okay.
So then Jen, we would be making a motion with the modification that AJ would not be included under cross-country head coach. I have it up now, and or assistant.
Okay. Is everybody
sure
clear on that? Thank you, Peggy, for.
Well, I wish I'd cut it. I'm sorry I didn't notice it earlier.
Okay.
Hold on, I'm making a modification note for under my Clerk Pro Tem duties here.
Okay, this is good because we got to put Jen in the position where she.
Okay.
Multitasking.
I'm multitasking over here. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're going into unfinished business. So we need to officially designate July 1st as our annual reorganization meeting. So I'm going to read the recommended action. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Haldane Central School District, in accordance with 17072 of the Education Law, will hold the 2020 to 2021 annual reorganization meeting of the Haldane Central School District on July 1st, 2020. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okie dokie. So now we are going to discuss our August business meeting and board retreat. So we're just going to start talking about some possible timelines for this. Typically, we have the August business meeting after the tax rate is set, so towards the end of August.
I thought we talked about maybe
Go ahead.
the possibility that we might need to meet more often this summer.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's all.
We did talk about that possibility, and I don't know if we're going to know how much more we need to meet until Phil gets the task force in motion.
Mhm.
That's how, so I was kind of waiting on that.
Okay.
Is that how you were feeling, Phil, or did you want to go ahead and preemptively schedule some board meetings?
No, I'm not quite there yet. But I do think I should start with, I'd like to just maintain historically what we've usually done in the summer to the extent that we can, but in the event that there's, some unique, regulation or executive order that comes down and there's a need to convene the board, I just think we have to have that in mind because it's an exceptional period of time. No different than, we have been meeting pretty consistently really since May. I don't think we need to continue to do that right now, but I just think we have to have it in the back of our minds that we may need to come together at some point this summer to discuss reentry planning. So what I would envision is, and just to lay the groundwork, if our task force starts meeting, let's say by the end of this month, and they're very active in the meeting process, and we have a plan that needs to be submitted to SED, which there's indication that that's what the process is going to be before the start of the school year. Personally, I think it's in our best interest to submit that plan as soon as possible. I would want to do so really by August, so that we would have a month to communicate whatever our plans are, or may be across a variety of circumstances. Now, typically before we submit a plan, we have to have it approved by the Board of Education. So that would necessitate a meeting of the board when we usually don't meet. We usually don't meet in the end of August, or I'm sorry, the end of July. So I just kind of keeping that in mind. All that being said, I don't have anything from SED right now in terms of planning. I have something from Alteris, which has been very helpful, but so I don't know what those timelines are going to be. So we just need to have that in mind. And if we can wait till that last meeting in August that we typically have, then great. That's what we'll do, and we'll stay on schedule. But we should have the reorg. We should have at least one other meeting in August, and there may be a need to squeeze one in there if, depending on what we hear in the coming weeks.
Okay, so we know we need to schedule an August meeting. So I guess we can talk about that a little bit. I don't know if you guys have like August schedules in mind, but usually we get, I think it's August 15th, which is a Saturday. So I don't know, Phil, if you know, but I'm assuming we'd have the tax rate information by that Monday, the 17th.
That sounds right, Jen.
Is that safe?
Yeah.
So we could probably meet anytime that week or the following. Does anybody have anything they need to share at this moment? Do you want me to shoot out some dates and stuff to you guys via email?
Sure.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
Nothing.
Okay, so I'll send out an email to see if we can get an August business meeting date set up. And we also usually do a retreat in August. We've done this a few different ways. We've done like a two-parter retreat where we do just a few hours together in August, and we do a few hours together, you know, in September or October, a little bit later. So any initial feelings about that, or do you want me just to like send you guys some dates via email and see what's possible?
Well, I think the other thing for us to think about, so I like the idea of splitting it up. That's one thing. I do personally, I do like that, like a half a day and a half a day. One thing for us to keep in mind is one of the things we've done in the past is we've had like sort of coordinated the August business meeting with the retreat, right? And do one, like maybe have an early business meeting and then do like an evening retreat or something like that. I kind of like that. Like if things are really opening up and there's a chance people can go away, I think probably like to make that as possible, make that possible or facilitate that. That's my thinking about it.
Yeah, and I think that I'm assuming if everyone has enough notice that you might need to start at like a 4 o'clock type time, that would be possible.
Right. And the other thing I just wanted to say is like just one more thing for us to think about it is, you know, do we do it so that people who are working take a half day, you know, do it during the week and do a half day or do like a Saturday morning, right? Those are just the things I think to throw out there for people to consider. Anything before the middle of August will be work-wise extraordinarily difficult for me, but anything after the middle of August will be better.
Yeah, and Anne's usually pretty specific that she likes us to meet after the middle of August, after the tax rate is set.
Yeah, but I meant both for the retreat and for the other. Yeah.
Great.
Well, not for the meeting so much, but definitely for the retreat.
I'd like to, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring on the two shorter meetings. Let's split something up. I think that's useful. And you could also do different content at each, and you could bring in the parts of the administration. I mean, it's a little more flexible that way. I think that can be useful.
Yep. Great. Okay, well, maybe I will just deal with that via email, okay? I'll talk with Phil and we'll pick out a couple of dates and then send them to everybody and see what's possible. Yeah. Okay. Our board self-evaluation. I'm going to turn this over to John to lead us through the discussion.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So people who are watching and board members and the administration may remember that the board had 2 self-designated goals for this year. The first being making progress on policy review, the new policy manual and review of that. And the second being adopting a self-evaluation for the board itself. We did the first part of this in mid-year, which was a little bit more of an informal pros and cons of what are we doing well and focus on the areas that we could be improving. Just for anyone watching along at home, we use the NISBA methodology that is publicly available online if anybody wants to check it out. It's a similar, highly effective developing structure as we use actually for the superintendent review. So same standards and practices, 5 standards and then 5 practices within each. And so first, thank you very much to all the board members for providing feedback on yourselves and ourselves and our collective work as a board. It's still in process. A couple of people have said that they wanted to provide a little bit more thoughts. And so we'll leave it open for the moment. But I think just at a high level, we've had some really good alignment around a couple things. And so I was just going to provide a couple of notes for the board and the administration and for anyone watching along is that sort of 2 of the opportunities that sort of came forward. And I think they're fairly consistent with things that we've heard before and we continue to try to work on and come up with new strategies and things that we can do to drive them are one is how do we use data and how do we use data to inform the decisions that we're making in terms of recommendations or budgeting or those sorts of things. I think it's a journey also that the district is on itself in terms of bringing a little bit more data into how we consider what we're doing. And then also communications. And communications is always something that I'm not sure struggle is the right word, but we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, and it's often hard to get a sense that we are. There aren't great necessarily feedback mechanisms, even when you just consider the board itself. And certainly we're working with the administration and Dr. Benante to figure out communication for the district in general, which I think has really changed and grown over the course of, by necessity, but in a very nice way over the course of COVID. But as a board, what do we need to be doing to help facilitate that? So 2 opportunities. And I think 2 strengths that really rose to the top were, 1, a really collaborative relationship with the superintendent, both on the supportive, but also on the constructive side in terms of being able to provide constructive feedback and working together to address opportunities. I think that came out in basically everybody's comments. And the second, with the sort of the understanding of the board's role itself, that we act as a unified board, that we have discussions and disagreements often, but when a decision is made, we are collective and acting with one voice, and also an understanding of where our responsibility ends. Our responsibility is setting a budget, hiring a superintendent, overseeing the policies of the school. But there are things that we don't do. My subject matter expertise, nor anybody on the board, is curriculum. We need to oversee that, but we're not here to decide what that is. So those 2 came. I think everyone's very comfortable that we know what our role is. We know how to deliver what the district and the administration needs. So I just wanted to provide that sort of top line overview, and there's a lot of content that I think everybody has. It's continue to be added to as people add more content. And I look forward certainly to this summer, because I think one of the opportunities is to really think of, okay, what do we do? Knowing that we have a couple opportunities, tactically, what can we do to be better and more effective? And I think that's fodder for a longer discussion. So.
Yeah, and that sounds like a perfect retreat topic.
Yeah.
John.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great. Thanks, John, for leading us through our initial step into self-evaluation, or at least formal self-evaluation. And yeah, so I think the final step is now will perhaps happen at a retreat, right? Where we get to really dive a little bit deeper and get to read each other's comments and talk further about what to do and how to move forward. Great. Thank you. Okay, new business. CSE, CPSE recommendations. Ms. Platt or Ms. Daly? Okay, here we go. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education hereby approves the recommendations of the committees on special education and preschool special education as presented. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so it is now time on our agenda to accept the results, which we do not have yet. So I'm going to skip over that piece and move into communication from the public. So did anybody chat with us while I was chatting?
Just a note from Ms. Seidman saying thank you. So
thank you, Ms. Seidman.
Agreed.
Thank you for listening and thank you for your hard work. It's appreciated. Okay, going into our board committee reports. The policy committee update. I don't know if we have anything to update. Peggy, do we have any updates?
No, we don't have any updates. There's still a task for me to complete, but looking forward to doing it soon.
Great.
No update.
Perfect. Mr. Putnam, I do have an update. So their annual budget vote happened a few weeks ago, and it passed. And the increase was 1.5% for dues. which for us means about $60 a year. And so, you know, it's a very small amount, and they provide such a great service. So their budget passed. And Victoria Tip was the president of Westchester Putt. She's a board member at Chappaqua Central School District, and she her term ended this year. So Frank Schnecker from Ossining is now the president, and Scott Levy from Byram Hills is the vice president. And their work continues on. So that's the Westchester Putt update. And now I think we need to take a pause. After, I just want to, I want to read one more chat. Yes, from Ms. Jammin, acknowledging the Haldane Arts Alliance for the support of the Arts Alive program. Thank you for calling them out. They do such great work for the school. Thank you so much for their continued support of bringing the arts to our students. So
But Ms.
Ms.
Jammin mentioned Corey, the president, so I kind of inferred that. So you actually were not, I don't think you were
further
neglectful.
clarifying, just further clarifying. Thank you. Great. So I think we need to pause now until the results are in.
They're definitely closed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually, I had just opened up my Zoom a second ago to see what kind of activity
What's the
I could
tally? What's
see.
happening?
How do you do 2 Zooms at once? Is that
Oh.
possible?
I couldn't get 2 Zooms at once, so I'm having
Oh, there we
somebody
go.
Different
text me.
device?
No.
All
Yeah,
right.
no, this is, you're
Smart.
talking to a woman who's been a remote employee for almost 5 years. So I have
Smart.
really,
She has Zoom
you can
expertise.
unfortunately or fortunately join virtual meetings through all the major platforms through a device as well as from your laptop. So consider that a fortunate or unfortunate opportunity.
So we're gonna pause. I guess, I don't know.
Actually, they stopped it, I think.
Yeah, but they'll take a little bit of time to
I
like.
think they're still wrapping up, Peggy.
Okay,
Wrap it
maybe
up.
I missed it. Maybe I did something.
And there's some
Okay.
stuff afterwards, I think that some procedural things that need to occur in the room, but I think
Gotcha.
we're close. So I don't think whatever recess,
Don't go far.
I don't think it'll be very long.
So
Okay.
what did we decide, Phil? We need to leave the video running.
So I'm going to leave the video running. We can turn our monitors off,
You
turn
can
our
turn your monitors off, mute yourselves.
mute yourself, and I would expect our admins are going to go home for the evening. So thank you for attending. But as far as our board goes, I'd ask that you probably stay on. And then Jen, are you able to just send a quick text to the board to let them know we should be back on once we're getting close?
Yes. So guys, go get dinner. I'll send you a text when it's time to come back to your screen.
Okay.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Judy are going to join the call and read the results.
Actually, so well, while we're waiting, is anybody planning to do the NISBA law conference this summer? You are, okay.
I am
All
planning on, yeah.
right. Okay, all right. Because I thought it would make sense for one of us to do it. I wasn't. Oh, good, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
Whose classroom are you in, Jen?
Miss Lamons.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You said you are on an adult chair? You're not.
I
on a
am, but I'm
20%
at
chair.
like a kid desk.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm kind of like leaning over.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah, it's a little.
So if Tim Walsh were on, he would comment on the color of the blue behind Miss Dinio and whether it is the official Haldane blue or not. But he's not.
That's true.
You saw Tim today. He'd be walking around with paint samples.
The Pantone.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have a cat that keeps trying to attend this meeting.
Right.
I see Anne's on, so I think we're Hi, Ann.
Hi, we're all set.
Anne, are you all set? Okay. So, do I have to make a motion to, no, you're going to share the results first and then I
Judy
will.
Meyer is our chief election inspector. She's going to share the results with you. So she's going to hop here.
Whoops. Sorry.
All good.
Good evening and thank you.
Hey, Judy.
The following are tentative results of the annual district meeting of 2020. Proposition 1, school budget passed, 1,127 yes votes, 502 no votes. Proposition 2, the school bus passed with 1,072 yes votes, 552 no votes. The trustee election, Peggy Clements received 1,308 votes. The total of write-in votes was 50. Thereby, Peggy Clements will assume the open trustee position on the Haldane School Board of Education commencing July 1st, 2020. Any questions I could help?
Judy, can you release the names of the write-ins or is that private information?
I don't think it's private, but
It's not private, but there are 50.
there are 50. Do you want the whole?
50, oh, it's 50 separate write-ins. Oh, I
Right.
see.
Right.
I see.
Right.
No, you do not need to read all 50 names. Thank you.
Okay,
Gotcha.
I thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
Okay, fantastic news. I'm going to read the recommended action here. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education hereby accepts the results of the annual district meeting, budget vote, and trustee vote for Tuesday, June 16th, 2020, as indicated below. I'm not going to read all of this, am I? I'll just say Proposition 1 passed, Proposition 2 passed, and Trustee Peggy Clements has been re-elected to a 3-year term. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion besides a big cartwheel? I'm doing them in the hallways
Great.
right now.
It's great.
Cheers.
Perfect place to do it.
Peggy getting voted by probably the largest vote turnout
Ah,
ever.
Peggy,
That's
out of
true.
history.
That's true.
Down in
There
history.
you go. That is probably true, Peggy.
That's three election cycles worth of yes votes.
Yeah,
That is.
That is. And I would like to congratulate both Anne, certainly, for pulling together such great work on the budget, and Phil and Jen for doing all the work to make sure that the community understood what we were. This was a super hard one, I think, as everybody on the board recognizes, in terms of the timing, in terms of what we were recommending, and I want to congratulate everybody who really did the work to get it done.
Thank you.
Catherine Platt.
And I would be
And Megan
remiss.
Shields.
I'd be remiss if I didn't thank all the ancillary groups, supporting organizations, the Arts Alliance, the Boosters, the HSF. I'm going to leave somebody out, but who all also were cognizant of the importance of this vote and helped out.
PTA.
PTA, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, group effort here for sure.
Right.
And a big thank you to those who voted yes for seeing the importance of our school and how important it is to our community and making sure it remains viable and keeps growing. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, board reflections. I feel like we just reflected, but does anybody have anything they would like to share?
I do. I mean, I think this issue, just to build on sort of the board self-evaluation and this issue of communication and, you know, our continued commitment and, I mean, I think I would say healthy struggle to kind of think about like what the board's role is in communication. But I would say, you know, really building on just such the really strong, solid foundation of the work that Anne and Dr. Benante did in building this really clear and actually really quite coherent communication strategy around the budget over all those months, laid this what I perceive as this, I mean, definitely this very strong foundation, but a foundation then for some of the work that Jen and I think John too, to some extent, was able to collaborate with Dr. Benante on in terms of bringing in the ancillary organizations and identifying key groups and folks in the community to share the, not just the message and the narrative that underlies what went into building the budget, but just communicating how committed the board was to this as well. So I don't know. I mean, I think that it was so critical to try and figure out ways to really share information under these unusual circumstances. And so I hope that's like in the win category, like, you know, in the positive not win, but in the positive category for us, you know.
Yeah, great.
Because I mean, I think it was really well thought out.
Dr. Benante, do you have anything you'd like to add? Are you doing cartwheels over there at the district office?
Not yet, but soon. I'm overwhelmed. I think that I'm incredibly appreciative and just thank the board for your support, but really this is a win, definitely, Peggy, for the Haldane community. And Ann and I and the leadership team here have spent a lot of time over the last 2 years, through the last 2 budget development cycles, to try to put a certain foundation in place. And we felt really confident going into this budget cycle, but obviously faced a really unique obstacle along the way. And I can just echo much of what John said, but it really caused us to re-examine how we were going to communicate this and who we were going to work with to communicate a very complicated, what became a very complicated budget communication process and really budget development process. So everybody, the School Foundation, the Arts Alliance, the PTA, I'll add in there the Haldane Faculty Association was a big help as well in getting out the vote. You know, everybody was played a role in this. So it's a win for Haldane, definitely. And I'm really proud. And I think there was so much within this budget that sets us up to do well and to continue to serve the children of our community well. And I think in the way that our community has come to expect it in not just next year, but in the years to come. So I'm really encouraged by that. It's a significant step forward for our school community as we close what has been an extraordinary school year. So with that, that's you know, all I have to say, but I'm just feeling an incredible sense of gratitude for Haldane right now in our community. And I hope everybody feels good about this, and because we all should. So that concludes my remarks.
Well said, sir.
Yeah, it's definitely
all right.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a communication from the community about how much folks value, you know, the district. So that's great.
And we've heard them loud and clear, which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And I should note, Jen, I think I just want to thank again Catherine and I see Catherine's back on now. I believe we weren't sure how long this was going to take, and if I'm not mistaken, we usually close polls at 9, so we're done a half hour earlier than we usually are. And that's not a vote to do this again this way, but just a real indication of the structure that Catherine put in to handle this very efficiently. And special thanks to Catherine and all of our election workers. There was a good crew down there who were really working away at this. So it went really well and it went really quickly, and we're able to have the results tonight, which is something that I think is really special. And thank you to Megan.
Megan.
Yeah. So yeah, it's team effort, and there was just so much that went on behind the scenes over the last few weeks, and Catherine and Megan have been a big part of that.
All right. I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night.
Good night.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, everybody. Good
To
job.
celebrate.